It's California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance, and we are joined by Owen Newcomer. He is a council member in Whittier. And sir, as you know, there are many cities in California that are looking at how they elect their members of council as well as their mayors. There are many organizations that have brought suit against cities, claiming that at-large voting is discriminatory. It doesn't allow certain groups to elect their own. Whittier has gone through such machinations. What happened in June?
In June, the City Council had put a charter amendment on the vote for switching, going away from the at-large elections that we've had to a district system. And as a supporter of the district system, I'm happy to say the voters approved it. So we now will elect 4 City Council districts and a mayor elected citywide, with the mayor having a 2-year term.
Both are new innovations for the city of Whittier.
Yes.
Let's start with the at-large district, then we'll talk about the mayor. I think there are many arguments both in favor and against the at-large versus district voting. I have heard some say their concern with the voting by district is that the given council members will be in their silos and they'll only be concerned about their quarter of the city, whereas if they have to be elected at large, they have a more global view of their municipality. What do you think about that concern?
Could happen, but I think there's a balance. And like most things, a balance is best. 4 districts, but with a mayor citywide, you always have the mayor politically in tune with the overall voting to balance whatever parochial interest might be in a particular district. It is the way we do it for Congress and the president, the state legislature and the governor. Every big city has a city council by district with a mayor elected citywide. The only real question to me is, I think it's a better system. The only question is, where is that size where a city becomes too small for it to work?
And let's talk about that. So Whittier is about 86,000 people.
Yes.
About, let's say, 15 square miles. That's, you know, a small to medium-sized city. Why do you feel as if a city of that size fits the district model best?
Well, that gives about 21,000 people per district. That's larger than some small cities.
True.
So I think that's a good number. But probably for the unique characteristics of Whittier, I would say there are a lot of people in East Whittier that, as their normal practice, don't go to Uptown. And there are a lot of people in the Uptown area and West Whittier that never make it out to the shopping center on the east side. There is a historical difference between the two parts of the city. In fact, East Whittier wasn't even part of the city prior to 1961 when it was annexed. So I think there is this psychological division.
So much of the push for districts has been driven often by the interests of certain ethnic and minority groups. And I'm wondering how a city creates the unity necessary when, in the end, often you will see that certain communities will elect people of a certain ethnic group and other communities will elect members of a different ethnic group, to avoid those kind of competitions.
Well, I'm not sure if you want to do that or how you would do it if you did. My whole focus is, that's not my focus. My focus isn't getting into the argument over ethnic representation. It's a good argument. Let others handle that. Mine is, it's a checks and balance system. And that checks and balances are a vital essence of the American representative system, and neither at-large nor an all-district system can do it, but a city council district with the mayor citywide can do it, at least to some extent, and that's good.
And if you look at the members of the state legislature, for example, I always talk about Chris Holden. I don't think he represents Whittier, but close to Whittier. He is an African-American, and I think it's fair to say his district has a very small African-American representation. And yet, so it does seem, I mean, look, we have a black president, and the country is by no means majority black. So, you know, query whether we are starting to move away from, you know, the automatic pulling the lever for someone of your own ethnic makeup.
I think it's more a matter of who best represents you on the ideas, and that depends. Is there a divisive issue over ethnicity? or isn't there?
Well, Whittier
and sometimes
seems-
there is, sometimes there is not. The key is, if there is a division in the community where this part of the city has some issue that they're different than the other part, you ought to be districts. If they don't have that, well, districts doesn't hurt anything. And so having districts allows for, if there is a division, it can find representation. If there isn't a division, in practical terms, I don't think you're going to notice any differences in the policy because there were no differences that divided the two areas, but only districts allow it to be
Right.
expressed if it exists.
Let's talk about the mayor.
Okay.
So you are a city that chose to move to direct election of the mayor.
Yes.
There are many cities that have gone to district elections but still kept that rotating mayor scenario. Why did the city council support the direct election of a mayor?
It's something that gives the voters a reason to vote. With districts, and our councils serve 4 years, every election, only 2 of the 4 districts are up for election.
Right.
So the other half of the city has nothing to vote on. By making our mayor elected, it gives them something to vote on, but the unique part, because our mayor serves a 2-year term, there's always going to be a mayor being elected by the voters.
Is that
And secondly,
Yeah.
if the mayor comes from a district and you simply rotate the title, no balance, no checks and balance has been achieved. The whole goal is the mayor must represent the whole city, and what better way to do that than to have the whole city vote on the mayor?
I absolutely appreciate what you just said in terms of having the mayor up every 2 years to drive voter turnout. I get that. That being said, you talk to members of Congress, you talk to members of the state assembly. I mean, when you have to run every 2 years, you're constantly running. And is that just one of those checks and balances? And,
So let's say, what's more important, to make the system convenient for candidates or to make the system convenient for
Are you
the
a poli
voters
sci
to get
professor?
representation?
Are you a poli-sci professor? I think you are, aren't you? Don't you teach poli-sci?
I do.
Now, when do you hold your elections?
April of the even years.
I'm wondering whether you may want to consider whether that should be consolidated. As you know, in Los Angeles, they hold their elections April of the odd years. They're looking to move it to the even years. So you're in the even year, but still, April is not a primary election. I mean, if you really want to drive voter turnout, could you move your election to June of that even year or November?
Through a charter amendment, we could do anything.
But what do you think? I mean,
It's one of those arguments. I think it's a good thing to argue about. My focus is promoting the citywide mayorship with district for city council. My whole argument is cities. There is a good reason to go to this newer system, separate from the legal arguments over representation. And let's focus on that. So if you're in the situation, if you're considering, don't just look at ethnicity and lawsuits. Look at the idea of checks and balances to see how it fits. Now, moving dates, that's another argument and another issue. And
But isn't it one worth talking about? Because we know election turnout is plummeting. And we also know that voters are getting a bit of fatigue when it comes to the number of ballots they're having to cast with special elections. And
I would say the advantage to going to November, more people will vote.
Right.
The disadvantage of going to November, a lot of people will be voting for city council based on whether you want to invade Iraq or don't want to invade Iraq. That the focus will be on national issues or something not related to the city.
you don't get the attention you deserve.
You don't, and it's harder and more expensive for candidates to get attention. So it's
but
there could be some disadvantages.
Well, you're very good at the balance. I mean, is it more important to drive turnout or more important to have people who are informed voters pay
Right now,
attention?
my position is I don't care. It's another issue. I
You're
only
good.
care about the districts. Stay on focus, Owen. And
You have. His name is Owen Newcomer. He is a member of the Whittier City Council. The city is now looking at drawing those lines. It'll be before the City Council in 2015. I am Brad Pomerance, and this is California Edition.